39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail message? The Grail message, in the light of truth, by Untitled, is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized, and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover, through the intuitive perception, if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail message, Untitled. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will you be able to understand the Grail message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. Dear listeners, just to remind you, this is the Spiritual Discussion Program, and the topic we are discussing tonight is trusting your intuition. And you're welcome to join in the show with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 7939 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, as I mentioned, the topic we're discussing tonight is trusting your intuition. And so you could say there are two key words, trusting and the intuition here. But the word intuition let's say people could have different ideas what that word means. And I'm not going to go to the dictionary tonight. I'm just going to just go and just go straight to you, Gregory, on this. So, intuition, people call it sometimes gut feeling. So how would we describe this? What is intuition?
You just mentioned it. So it's a gut feeling, a spontaneous gut feeling.
Okay, so and it's like when we say that, there's somehow behind it you think is inexplicable. You say we use that word gut feeling, but we don't still understand it. You can say, where is it coming from? Let's say another way we look at things is, let's say, rationally. You can say we think about things, but this intuition or gut feeling, it comes. You just said it all actually spontaneously. But again, as I say, we don't really know or understand where does it come from. So maybe the next question should be, where does it come from, this gut feeling or intuition?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, my question is, where does the intuition or gut feeling come from? Because there's the word intuition, we don't seem to have really a proper understanding what exactly is intuition. So, and I was talking earlier about, when we think, that's your mind having a thought and something. So somewhere there's like a concept there, some idea there, even if you're not completely clear about that. But with the gut feeling, it seems to come from nowhere. It's like, as you say, spontaneous. So where does it come from, the gut feeling?
That particular perception is more of an activity of the inner personality, which is of spirit. That is the origin of intuition.
Right. The activity of the spirit. So, okay. Maybe we can, Gregory, talk about the other things like, so let's just look at other things like, for example, thoughts, Gregory. Is any thoughts, are they related at all with the intuition?
Strictly speaking, they are not related because thoughts come from the frontal brain, where it is based on the accumulation of experiences which have been stored by the personality or by the human personality, which it can readily use. These are stored in the frontal brain, and most of the time you will find it has to do with the day-to-day activities that the person is engaged in. So it reflects over these activities, and it makes decisions. These decisions are tied to the neighborhood or to the environment. By environment, one is talking not only the physical environment, but the nearest neighborhood of the person. But all these things are earthly.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. I think we are now starting to distinguish it more clearly. What I can see, as you mentioned just there about the thoughts being from like an everyday earthly activity, and the intuition or gut feeling being a spiritual activity, being more, although we don't say every day, but it's more like, let's say, deeper activity. It's maybe it's for more important activity, we could say it in that way. And you mentioned about decision making. So let's say the daily activity of eating and going to A to B, it's more like a functional, while you could say when we think of the gut feeling, it's more of a important decision making that we would consider it in this respect more. So I want to ask on that. So, Gregory, would you say the thoughts are like about rational? They're more rationalizing things, while intuition is, well, I was going to call it irrational. Maybe, yeah, I'll say it like that, Gregory. So is the thoughts, Gregory, are they more rational, and the intuition something irrational?
One has to be very careful when using these catchphrases of rational and irrational. What is referred to as rational nowadays is only what had been experienced in the nearest environment, and this has been accumulated through learning, and therefore when many make their decisions, they are based upon what they have accumulated as earthly experiences. But when the concept of intuition is mentioned, that seems to come from, in quotes, nowhere. Nowhere, because one cannot logically justify it based on what one had experienced in the immediate neighborhood. So it soars above what one has learned in the nearest neighborhood. So that means it's above the earthly conceptions of space and time.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. Again, we are moving forward in going deeper into this topic tonight. So you can say, as you started earlier, you said that the thoughts are like for earthly, everyday decision making, and then the intuition is, you can say, I mean, I mentioned about more important decisions in decision making of that type, but it also is not coming from the earthly, because you mentioned it from the spiritual. So there's something, you could say, from a higher realm. Maybe that's a way to put it. Now, Gregory, it is a feeling, isn't it? The intuition. It's like we said it was gut feeling. So another thing I want to say, go into that, Gregory. Sometimes we call imagination, and we have thoughts and feelings coming from imagination. Is there any, so the imagination, is there any connection with intuition there, or gut feeling there? Or just want to clear that, because we can have some feeling from imagination as well. Gregory? Go on, Gregory, are you there? Just checking.
Oh, I thought I was.
No, I couldn't hear anything. You just was silent.
Hello?
Yep, now it's clear. You're not on mute. I know. Yeah, I know you're not on mute. It's maybe it's just some connection issue.
Yeah, when these matters are contemplated, one has to make distinctions so that the confusion is minimized. The body functions, those bodily functions that sometimes arise spontaneously, they produce the so-called the instinct, which instincts are bound to the body. However, when intuition, which is more of a perception, it goes deeper or it goes beyond the bodily functions, and that goes to the inner core of man that supplies the drive for the body, and that is spirit. So with this, one can see, can perceive that the spirit, or the language which is referred to as, or more or less the perception, because when intuition is mentioned, it is the intuitive perception. So these are all perceptions, but that which is much deeper, which transcends the ordinary bodily functions, that is the origin of intuition. And when others are discussed, there is also what one may refer to as the intellect. The intellect, basically, which is a product of the frontal brain, where information is kept for everyday use, whereas the intuitive perception is connected to the spirit, or when you refer to the spirit's activity, that is passed on via, in quotes, the back brain to the frontal brain, if the frontal brain does not block it out. And then you have, when man is able to see it and then responds to it. So it does not, in quotes, make any sense when one is referring to the frontal brain, which is bound to the physical body, the gross material physical body, because it cannot then justify where this came from, whereas it is an activity of the spirit.
Thank you again, Gregory, for that answer. We are really being very, what you're saying is being very precise about getting a precise understanding of, what, let's say, instinct is, or what thoughts are, and you mentioned bodily functions, and then here the intuition, which is a perception. So these are all different things, and we can easily, let's say, if we don't look at it clearly, we can make confusion of, or by mixing these things up. And so we won't be, the reason we are clarifying right now is so that when we talk about the topic of intuition, we just need to know, we must all be on the same page and have the same understanding. Otherwise, somebody can have a different idea. We're talking the same word, but somebody can have a different idea of that word. So thank you for clarifying that. So let's explore further. I'm just going to use another, you could say, word that we commonly use, like Gregory, we use the head and the heart. You're thinking from the head, or is it coming, some feeling is coming or something's coming from you, and you're saying, is that from your head or is it from your heart? So the head, we think of it as the intellect. I think you mentioned intellect just now. And then I would say the heart, we would refer that to our intuition. Would that be accurate to say that?
Yes, that is precise enough. The word heart, when it's referred to, just as the heart pumps the blood around the physical body to keep it functional, it's as if the heart supplies the power, a wave of power, because there is that circulation of blood to supply the nutrients to all other parts of the body. So also the spirit, which is the center or the inner core, is able to supply a wave of power to the physical body to make itself felt.
Thank you for that, again, explanation and picture. So, we've talked about where the intuition is coming from. What I want to ask Gregory, I'm just trying to think of how things happen, because intuition seems to come suddenly, Gregory, and almost like you can't, I was going to say, it's not in your control almost, it's like it just appears, while thoughts is that you have, let's say, thinking about something, of course you chose to think of that topic or whatever, and then as you think more of it comes to you, but intuition seems to come, I don't want to use the word randomly, but you said spontaneously earlier. So almost like, it's not in your control. That's the way I want to put it. So, Gregory, with the intuition, can one sort of have it at any moment in our hands, or is it just like you said, spontaneous? It just appears when it at a certain moment when it sort of, let's say, I can't think of the right word, but it just appears at the moment it's needed, rather than let's say I cause it to appear. I know what I'm saying may not be clear as I would like it to be, but what I want to say, Gregory, thoughts is like we are behind the thought. We are, the thoughts can come and new thoughts can happen, but like we are focusing on something and then that appears. But with the intuition, it's like more, I don't want to use the word random, but more like it just happens. So my point there is, Gregory, can we sort of receive an intuition through some of our own action, or it has to be just when it appears by itself?
It is because many have not observed themselves very carefully that confusion has arisen. The intuitive perception is not random. It is because many are engaged in overthinking. When one uses a particular tool again and again and again for almost everything, then you find that it becomes a habit. And therefore, when in some other scenario, which scenario is of greater substance or of greater dimension than that scenario that one has been used to, in which habits have been formed, you then find that the intellectual understanding becomes so limited, it cannot comprehend it, because the frontal brain that stores this information is tied only at best to what has been lived through as such, lived through in the immediate neighborhood. Whereas that which is of intuition soars above that. Many people may understand that even at night when they go to bed, they have dreams. And in their dreams, you find that in particular cases, they are unable to speak as such, but they are just like observers, seeing pictures. Whenever you have that speech comes into it, that speech is more or less an activity from the frontal brain, whereas that which is of intuition, the picture comes first, and you have, as an observer, sort of taking these events in. Even in one's sleep, one can observe that you have a whole lifetime, and in that sleep, you have experienced so much. Maybe it's a dream of about maybe 2 or 3 minutes. Whereas in normal earthly life, things are much slower. Therefore, one must distinguish between intuitive perception, which, strictly speaking, is a perceptive ability which soars above the earthly conceptions. By earthly conceptions, that which is tied to the bodily functionality that we know. Whereas the source of that intuition is more or less a wave of power, which then have an impact on the physical body. But there is always, when these things happen, you try to justify it, whereas justification is based on your local experiences, not on a much deeper experience.
Thank you for that, Gregory. Again, you're expanding our picture of this, our understanding of intuition and the activity of the intuition, and let's say you mentioned bodily functions or earthly activities that we are doing. So, and you can see it's quite, big world, if I can put it this way. It's quite deep to look at it. So, yes, listeners, I want to remind you that you're listening to Bless Radio. This is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdushin. And the topic we're discussing tonight is trusting your intuition. Trusting your intuition. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comment. You can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 1958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And we are broadcasting on blessradio1, the number 1.com. blessradio1, the number 1.com. Also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number 1, space live stream. And also you can listen to the recording of the show the next day. Go to youtube.com again and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, space Grail message. I'll just spell that Grail message, MESSAGE. And then again the topic, space the topic of the show, which tonight is trusting your intuition. And also just to let you know, if you are interested in the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. Gregory, let's talk about trusting your intuition. Should we trust our intuition?
Before trust comes in, there must have been some observations, some rigorous observations that then breeds confidence again and again. Only then we want to talk about trusting. For as long as one lacks the experience on the manifestations of the intuitive perceptions, then one cannot have that confidence. But as is the case in many scenarios, will be filled with doubts. Here is a scenario in which you cannot explain it. Because you cannot explain it in a normal way, you then have doubts. One simple example one may give is the case of chemistry, in which someone had been involved in the understanding of the organic nature of certain, molecules. And from all the studies, all the limited studies they've had, it looks so different. Yet this guy had the strongest impression, even in his dreams, that it was cyclic. And for quite some time, there was some resistance until he followed that particular intuition and produced a cyclic structure. Only then could he explain very many things and then put it forward. I'm talking about the case of Kekulé in chemistry. That is a very broad and precise example. For what your everyday experiences have been are so limited. But when it comes to that which is more profound, which breaks the mold of the structures many a personality has constructed from one's intellect, then it transcends beyond the intellect and must have arisen from a wave of power that has touched the personality. Therefore, it is quite simple and right to say that which produces, that inner perception which produces the pictures first, must be right. The challenge has been that because one does not avail oneself the use of this strong impression, the tendency then becomes, when these flashes of intuition occurs, they are ignored.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. I'm realizing or seeing that we have been given this tool, intuition. We have been given other tools, you can say, the intellect, instinct, and so on. And you have to practice using them. And as they say, practice makes perfect. So you can't say, oh, you have some impression from whatever, is it instinct, whether it's intuition or or thought or whatever it is. But if you have not, I was going to say, become a master in using that or grasping that thought or instinct or intuition, then of course you can't say, it's not about trusting what you receive, it's more that are you capable of actually grasping what you've been given, so it's more becoming a master of using that tool that you've been given. I can see that picture how you've explained it just now. So when we say trusting your intuition, well, that question can't be done straight away unless you yourself first can realize, yes, this is the intuition talking, or this is the instinct talking, or whatever it is that I'm receiving. That's what you have to get, let's say, become a master or have experience in it. And then once you have recognized this is how it is, then you can say, yes, this is what it is. And then, of course, you can say, I can trust that. Thank you for that, Gregory. It's really opened quite a big picture, I must say that. And the more we go into it, Gregory, what I'm noticing it was so many gifts we have been given, which we don't really truly appreciate the value of them or how great they are actually. And we take them for granted, and don't really appreciate it, how much, how great, how powerful they are even.
Well, it's more of a lot of talk about this. For only when you utilize that which has been granted to you, only then will you become adept in it. If, however, one does not utilize again and again, in all scenarios, that which you or has been presented to you, then you lack the necessary experience. Because you lack the necessary experience, when bigger challenges come, you yourself will not know what to do. The tendency is to fall back to the everyday practices, to that which you are used to. And that which you are used to is very limited. That is always the problem.
Thank you for that. I'm thinking, Gregory, is there a way to sharpen or exercise the intuition more, that, just so that we can make use it? You said utilize it. So is it just, how can I say, learn as we go, use it, and then see how, if it goes this way, it goes that way? Or is there some training? I use the word training in quotes, in the sense of something maybe we look after our diet, try to be healthy, so that when we get this intuition, we are now more, let's say, I use the word master, but maybe that's too strong a word. Become adept, like you said, adept. So is there some practice, Gregory, we are supposed to adopt to become more adept in, realize, hearing the intuition? So I'm thinking about diet, or some sort of any practice, really. People could say meditation, or I don't want to pick any one example. Maybe you can help us, Gregory. Is there something that will help us to be adept at recognizing the intuition?
Yes, there is. When you want to understand a language, then you must make the effort or make the struggle to speak the language, to interact with the language. Basically means you have to practice. And it is only through continuous uses and practicing that clarity comes along and becomes very firm. As long as one does not engage as an inner attitude, that means to align oneself with the flashes that has arisen in whatever scenario one finds himself, as long as does not engage in these things again and again, then it lacks the necessary experiences to be able to discern whether this is of the intellect, because with the intellect, it will always follow the known logic, whereas that which is of intuition, most of the time, is above the known logic, although at the same time is consistent with that which nature has provided. A very simple example that one may use is that here one is provided with a work, and in the work it is said, let us now use our everyday parlance, and the work says, in the light of truth. Very simply, there are two nouns there. The first one is light. The second one is truth. Deep within you, how does one hold this metaphor of light and truth? Therefore, one will say that light is substance. Substance which, in order to express it, there must be a form or structure. In the other case, where truth is mentioned, there must be a law, which law is based in motion. So, very simply, In first seeing this work, two basic intuitions strike the human personality. The first intuition is that of light, and not for nothing is we saying light, because the intuition expresses itself in a picture or in light. And the other is truth. That is the second intuition. One has only just used these very simple examples. For the language which we use is more of a metaphor. A metaphor, or one may say a manifold. A metaphor is used to qualify, and it may mean so many things. At the same time, it is all inclusive, not just partial. Use it once and throw it away. That is not what a metaphor is. It means it can be used again and again, applied to different scenarios. There are different metaphors. The same thing also happens when truth is mentioned. So that's why one makes the distinction and says the first intuition which strikes you is that of light. The second intuition is that of truth. Then the human personality must be prepared to investigate further. So the question keeps arising. How should one do it? There is no other way for one who wishes to learn the language of the intuition than getting involved, striving again and again. The structure of the intuition is very simple. First, the light. The impression which flashes in front of you, which is, in quotes, illogical based on what you know. But many are too indolent to follow such signs because they wish to be praised when they get something right. They wish to have a prize. Moreover, it must be made very clear that which is valuable, that is, that intuition which is valuable, does not have to be pleasant. Many times, it may come as unpleasant, but subsequently, it is the valuability of that experience that counts. Which experience, if not had at that particular time, will leave the human personality short. As many know, people only seek that which is of pleasure to them. Anything which tends to make them do extra work, they leave aside as wrong. And that explains why the intuition, most of the time, is ignored. Because it will involve personality of doing extra, of having extra effort in order to understand the consequences of that flash that has occurred to you.
Thank you for the answer or explanation, Gregory. I noticed I've had a couple of questions from the listeners, and I only saw them now after asking my own questions, and they may just be out of sync a little bit, but I think we should look at them. So if I start with this one, so this listener is saying, Saad, I sometimes say things just out of the blue without me realizing what I've said until after I have said it. Then a day or two later, the thing I said has come to pass. Is that intuition or something else? So I'll repeat that, Gregory. Saad, I sometimes say things just out of the blue without me realizing what I've said until after I've said it. Then a day or two later, the thing I said has come to pass. Is that intuition or something else?
What has happened in that scenario is that the wave of intuition or the wave of power which has arisen out of the intuition leaves a very strong impression which the frontal intellect is unable to recognize now. Only later, maybe a day or two or a week or sometimes years, only later along the line does one come to realize what one had either said or dreamt of or whatever. Those waves of power that have left a lasting or a strong impression, those one may refer to as one's intuition. But it is not static. The intuition keeps getting finer and finer and finer as one is able to engage in it. There are problems. For when one gets into these stages, there are others who then wish to either do particular exercises or eat particular types of food. Which types of foods or diets tends to cause the imbalance in one's perception. A very simple example, one can imagine that one takes to drinking, which drinking or to excessive drinking changes the blood radiation. So everything becomes distorted. Therefore, each personality must be careful so as not to get into scenarios where that which they were able to perceive without much problem becomes a big challenge. Just as you have excessive drinking, the same thing will also happen when tobacco is absorbed in one's system or some other things which will cause an imbalance in one's system.
Thank you for that, Gregory. In my mind, from that listener's question, I thought of premonition because they say something. I'm not sure it is premonition, but I just it came into my head. So basically the listener was saying that they say some words that come out of them, and then 2 days later they notice it's happening or has happened. So in my head, I was wondering, what are they thinking that they're having a premonition? So, but I'm not quite sure.
The word itself explains premonition. So where what is the source of the premonition? Basically, that source must be that the spirit, having in its activity sensed some of the returns of past activities of the personality, is able to sense it because of its fineness, and already can pass on another wave of power to the personality or to the frontal brain, which frontal brain for now is unable to grasp it. Only later is the frontal brain able to understand after going through some further experiences. So that is what you refer to as premonition. But again, it is the sensing of the fine currents or the fine streams of current which is to come and is already able to respond to it. Whereas the frontal brain has not yet woken up or is unable to sense this current, because the work of the frontal brain is strictly gross material.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. Before I go to the next question, I just want to tell the listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's a Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Untitled. And if you are interested in knowing more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. It's www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is trusting your intuition. Trusting your intuition. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Correctly, I'm going to go to the question from another listener just now. Let me just find that one. And again, it was referring really to when you were talking about earlier about the intuition and the activity of the spirit. So I think it's a comment really. It would seem that the spirit and its intuition is the life core of our being, and it is our personality that grows around this life-giving core. So I'll just repeat that, Gregory. So it would seem that the spirit and its intuition is the life core of our being, and it is our personality that grows around this life-giving core. What would you say to that, Gregory? Any comment on that? Any response to that?
There needs to be more clarity. The spirit itself is the personality. The power that streams from out of creation or that stream from out of the divine touches or has an impact on the personality, which personality is the spirit. Therefore, one might say the spiritual personality. Depending on how that spiritual personality directs this power, or the way it cares to use the power, then it means it's able to, in quotes, create forms, which forms are lasting. One of the consequences in using this power is that it radiates this power to the physical body, the gross material physical body, which is the tool it uses to experience here on earth. It means without the physical or the gross material physical body, it's unable to experience effectively, because the tools of the gross material physical body are the five senses. Above these five senses is the spirit with its clothing. In that state, that particular spirit personality is referred to as the soul. Therefore, when the spirit is operating, that means it's austere. It's always sending waves of power to the intellect. However, what then happens? The everyday experiences which have arisen out of habit in the frontal brain or the intellect sometimes is so strong that the pictures which these waves of power furnishes are not clear enough. Therein lies the confusion. Or sometimes the human spirit is too indolent to get into activity. In that case, you have the frontal brain, the activities are so strong that it blocks out many other things. And therefore, all activities you find of the physical body comes, or most of it comes, from the local experiences it has. It's unable to perceive further. These are the challenges. Whatever little one has been able to explain is not sufficient. So each person should strive to grasp what has been put or has been granted to everyone in this walk in the light of truth, the Grail message.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. Yes, listeners, as Gregory's just said there, in this show we are only able to touch on things. We cannot go into details and specifics, explanations of things. As Gregory has referred you to the Grail message, yes, please do examine the Grail message for yourself. Definitely, there's more than what we are talking about in the show. As I already said, we can only touch upon it. So they are really deep concepts. As every time we explore, we realize that very soon. And you can't, even though it's a 2-hour show, each concept is actually the functioning and the operating of the concept of each. Let's say concept. Yes, you need to. We can maybe give the parameters a little bit, but to really examine it, to really understand it, you'd have to go deeper. So then that's reading the Grail message will give you that detail. Gregory, I know you said talk about practicing and experiencing, you can say. I know we've mentioned about, for example, instincts, and I just want to go into that. Sometimes people say trust your instinct, and we have said trust your intuition. And I just want to clarify that when they say that, trust your instinct, is that what they mean, the intuition there, or do they actually mean the instinct?
These are two different words. Instinct, which instincts are responses, spontaneous responses from the bodily functionality, and the second one, intuition, which are spontaneous responses from the inner personality, which itself is alive. That inner personality is spirit. So these are two different things. One is tied to the functionalities of perception of the physical body, which has accumulated over time in the earthly conceptions, whereas that of the spirit is referring to experiences which has accumulated over millennia, over the experience, the activities that has been lived through, not only from the earthly point of view, but also from the non-earthly point of view. So one can see that the instincts are limited. Strictly speaking, one may say the instincts are limited to the world of matter, because the physical body belongs to that realm of the world of matter. And the radiations which are produced, which radiations vary from season to season or from one place to the other, affect the physical body, because the physical body is a product of this. Whereas that which we are referring to, which is of spirit, is above matter. That which is of matter is subjected to the perceptions is able to use from the world of matter, which are limited. That which is of spirit is much higher, and its gaze is much, much higher than that you have in the world of matter. What one is doing here is only trying to give distinctions such that they are not the same. One can see that there are distinctions in these things. But above all, again, the need is there to examine the work in the light of truth, the Grail message. And only through such personal struggle or personal examination and the observation of activities within the individual and the observation of activities out of the individual in the greater world, as one will find in nature, only such efforts will awaken to the recognition. For what you have is that which is visibly there, which you can hear, which are tied to the five senses. These forms, these structural forms, present to the personality the cognitions, the cognitive objects. Whereas, when in quiet reflection, one's open up the awareness of the purpose of these objects, of these cognitive objects, one comes to a recognition. And because you have these cognitive objects present, not only visibly in the so-called earthly conceptions, there are also cognitive objects in the non-earthly. And when one is able, through one's activities, after all, what are your thoughts? You can never hold them in your hands, but they are there. When one is able now to recognize, or through one's activities, to have better awareness, that is a recognition, which recognition can only come from the Spirit.
Thank you, Gregory, for that, again, explanation. I've received a question again from a listener, the same listener actually earlier on. They're now saying, one moment. Just when I want it, it has disappeared. Okay, here we go. Right. What is it like in the beyond without our earthly brain? Is one handicapped if one has not trained oneself to understand this spiritual intuition? So I'll read that out again. What is it like in the beyond without our earthly brain? Is one handicapped if one has not trained oneself to understand this spiritual intuition?
That is a very pertinent question. For before one incarnated, that means before one was granted the opportunity to have a physical body through one's parents, one already existed, and the brain was not there, because the brain only came into existence when you now have the tool. What then happens? When the tool is no more there, like the thinking, it means therefore only the intuition becomes effective. There, it is spontaneous reactions, spontaneous returns. That means there will be no time to say, okay, once through one's intuition, you give out a wave of power. That wave of power will form your environment through which you yourself must experience. So if that wave of power is such that it will direct you to the deepest parts of the world of matter, in which one may call hell, where people like to experience by cheating others. In all naturalness, the vibrations will be such that those people who have such strong impressions will come together to experience. If, however, one has a strong impression to be of nobility, of simplicity, then, in all naturalness, one will be drawn along such lines to experience. Only when, after some time, one becomes fed up with such experiences, because deep within it senses it is not noble, only then will it gradually move away after such severe experiences. So it is the intuition that counts, because in that perception, you yourself are able to bring about forms which will then link up with similar forms, such that you have to experience. There, the intellect does not exist, because that which is referred to as the intellect is a product of the frontal brain, where thoughts are generated. Since you don't have a frontal brain as such, because you are severed from the earth, then it is the intuition that takes over.
Thank you for that answer or explanation, Gregory. The second part of the question, if I just read it out, it said, if one has not trained oneself to understand this is one handicapped if one has not trained oneself to understand this spiritual intuition? And what I was thinking, Gregory, that you mentioned that before you incarnated on this earth, you already, basically you didn't have your body, so your thoughts and things didn't exist at that point. And basically, your intuition was like free to function there. And what I'm thinking, so then you come onto this earth, you're born on the earth, you now have your brain and you start thinking and so on. But then let's say you allow yourself to get clouded, the intuition doesn't, is not so active as it's supposed to be on the earth, because of the way you have lived your life, right? And then you pass on, you die, and you drop your body behind, and then of course you don't have your brain anymore in the beyond. It's just back to how you were before you incarnated. And so I was thinking, the question the listener was asking, does it, because you didn't train your intuition on the earth, would it affect your life, now back in the beyond? And I was thinking, Gregory, well, actually, even if you didn't, however you used your life, whatever you did in your life, you won't have your brain anyway. So it's like you would be free to use your intuition there in the beyond again, because you don't have the brain anymore. So I don't think basically he's saying the brain, would it be a handicap?
Actually, if one reflects calmly, there was the answer which has been given, on the matter, I want us to reflect a bit more. The opportunities which the earth, which an incarnation offers, is such that one is able to make this use of these opportunities such that one does not remain at the same level, such that when the human personality then passes on, drops the physical body, it has improved on what it was before incarnation. Therefore, there will be no handicap if it has improved on what it was. If, however, it has not improved on what it was before it came to the earth, or it has even sunk, then there is a massive challenge for it. It's just like you go to a school and you sink deeper.
Thank you for that, Gregory, and bless you for, I think you're sneezing there. Yeah, thank you for that. I've got another question now, Gregory. I know we've talked about it in the previous other shows, but again, I think it's very relevant to tonight. Conscience. Is intuition the same as our conscience?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
When it comes to man's experiencing, within this scheme of things, there are others who wish to help to ensure that the human personality, within the opportunities it has been granted, is able to improve itself. Because that is the case, these others of good volition sometimes crowd around, or they accumulate and send wave of power to these personalities who are here on earth, particularly in areas where they themselves might have failed, but now they have come to a final recognition. And now wanting to be of help to others, such that those do not fail, they are granted the opportunity to be of advice. Therefore, you now have what constitutes the conscience of the personality. That means the suggestions which have been passed to this particular personality, which suggestions are the results of the waves of power which these other people have had. And moreover, one should not forget that within the activities in creation, there are returns. There are reciprocal activities, which reciprocal activity many, almost all, cannot see, because these are very fine currents of power. And these fine currents of power are definite to strike the individual. When they strike and the individual personality hasn't matured enough to know how to respond to it, it may sink. Or if they are of high thoughts, it may rise. Now, those others who have experienced much, who also want, out of love and out of anxiety for others, who do not want them to fail, gather around and advise such that the individual personality's life will be improved, such that when these currents approach, they will ensure that that individual has improved itself. And these currents, which would have sunk it if they are terrible currents, of evil currents, that individual has so improved itself that it only needs a symbolic redemption to ensure it's not in tune with such things. Those personalities that sends these waves of power to help that personality still on earth, those personalities are what constitutes the conscience of the individual. But sad as it may sound, many ignore the warnings of the conscience.
Thank you for that, Gregory. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdushin. If you are interested in knowing more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we are discussing tonight, I should say, for discussion, it is trusting your intuition. Trusting your intuition. If you have any questions or have any comments, please contact us on our UK number, which is 07939641958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, the number to contact is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And we're broadcasting on Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1, Bless Radio 1, number 1.com. Also, you can go to YouTube, go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, again the number 1, space live stream. That's for the live show. If you want to listen to a recording of our show, which is normally the next day, you go to, again, youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, the number 1, space Grail message, and then space the topic of the show, which tonight is trusting your intuition. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows, as I mentioned, so on YouTube again. Just type in the topic there. Now, Gregory, there's something I would like to read as like a story, which I found in my research. It's about 2 pages. It's a bit more than 2 pages, but I'm only going to read the 2 pages. They're quite nice short story, and it's from the magazine Psychology Today. It's a UK. This one is from the UK website of it. So it's titled 3 Reasons Why You Have to Trust Your Gut, When and How to Use Your Intuition. And it's a personal story. I'm not quite sure who is the exact author here. It says Susanna Newsonen, but I will read it as it is. When I was 26, I nearly made the biggest mistake of my life. Commit to marrying the wrong guy. The venue was booked, the dress was ordered, and the invites were mailed. Everything was ready, except I was not. Out of nowhere, I started to notice an odd feeling. I couldn't sleep or eat, and I struggled to focus at work. And I was feeling emotional, yet numb. I couldn't figure out what was wrong until I realized my intuition was trying to get my attention. Out of the blue, I knew in my heart and in my gut that I wanted to cancel the wedding and leave the relationship. I had never been so sure of anything in my life. Although I tried to rationalize the reason, it was impossible. We didn't have any problems, rarely argued, and wanted the same things for the future. Yet one day I woke up and realized that we weren't meant to be. The hardest part was explaining things to my then fiancé and my family. Everyone kept asking, but why? And my answer of I just know didn't put anyone at ease. But when I had made the decision and told the people around me, it was like a weight of the world had been lifted off my shoulders. I felt free again. Within weeks, my close friends told me that I looked happier and lighter again, like I had turned from a dark cloud into a ray of sunshine. To this day, I still have never been so sure of anything as I was about that decision. I trusted my gut, and I'm so glad I did. I have never been happier. How did I know? How could I have been so sure and confident in making such a massive change in my life? Psychologists posit, not quite sure what that word means. Posit means psychologists, let's say that the unconscious mind dictates decision making more than we think. Even when you try to base decisions purely on logic, your subconscious mind nudges you with extra information. Whatever you believe, here are 3 reasons why you should listen to your intuition. Your intuition is shaped by your past experiences, your existing knowledge, which you gained from them. There's something missing here, but I think I'll just continue. It says, they know what is best for you. They take their advice into consideration. If they are more experienced than you are, and you have lived your life and you have fully experienced it, making you the best person to decide what to do next. When it comes to life decisions, which involve a lot of feeling and heart, like relationships, only you know what is in your heart. Trust that you have all the knowledge and experience you need to make the decision that's right for you. Gregory, I don't want to continue yet, because this person is saying they have 3 reasons why you should trust your intuition or gut. And that's one of the reasons they've given, that based on your past experiences, on your existing knowledge, which you have gained from them. And would you like to make any sort of comment on that?
It must be stressed that whatever challenges one encounters, in one's activities. These challenges, when viewed with the right attitude, help to improve the inner personality. Why? Because it is able to summon up the strength using the wave of power that streams from the spirit, which is referred to as one's intuition, and working or uniting with the chief executive, which is the frontal brain. That means interpreting it in accordance with the nature it has found on earth. When it refers to a union which is referred to as marriage, it's more serious, for the concept of marriage, as has been circulated, has been grossly distorted. For there are only two in the marriage. And when these two come together, there is a purpose. However, what has been the case is that which will ennoble the soul is swept aside. Ennoblement is what the spirit needs through its activities. And this comes through continuous experiencing, which one may call valuable experiences. These experiences do not have to be pleasant. A simple example that one gives is that of you go out there, you like to watch football being played. The skillful footballers are the ones who have the challenges but find ways to get around the challenges. However, there are some who don't want any challenges. They might as well have no opposing team. So they just start shooting the ball in the goal. What sort of game will that be? That one has chosen a partner and will have to experience. In the process of experiencing, one learns to cry out. And in crying out, in its activities, helps do come. In adjusting, one has to learn of the nature of those who are different from him. Learning that nature requires one's intuition. One may be in the situation where in past sowings, in previous earth lives or in different places, one has sown in conjunction with some of these people. And in this so-called union, things, all the knots which had been tied are to be untied. It is not pleasant when these knots have to be untied. Very sadly, many a personality wants a pleasant life where they don't have to do anything. They don't wish to understand the challenges of others who, like him or like her, are striving to improve of themselves. Because now everything is now intellectual, gross material. The improvement of the spirit from the state in which it was to a better state is not considered. And therefore, Even when intuition is mentioned, it's only mentioned in the case of self-aggrandizement, just to show off their vanities, not genuine. So, as the article you have read, seen from the outside will attract praises, but seen from the inside will not attract as much praises as those from the outside. Of course, people sometimes make error. But if there's an error, you learn from it and move forward. Most of those who are able to make progress are those who are able to go forward courageously. Just like a child learning to walk may fall along the way, gets up, tries again. That is what is expected. Not those who sit in one place and propound on how to fix things when they themselves haven't experienced it. Similar to the cases of some of the best footballers are the spectators, not those in the field. Therefore, many had better wake up, for experiences will come, some very pleasant, some very unpleasant. Whether it be joy, whether it be sorrow, the human personality needs to learn from this and make use of what it has experienced for self-improvement.
Thank you so much for what you've said there, Gregory. I just, maybe I should have read all the 3 reasons before I let you come in, because now when you hear them now, you will see that they do align with what you have just said. So if I start, just to remind you listeners, I just read an article from Psychology Today about 3 reasons why you have to trust your gut. And so the one reason I already read it, I'll just repeat it. Your intuition is shaped by your past experience and your existing knowledge, which you have gained from them. And I must say this line is missing, but I will add to it. It says it knows what is best for you. They take their advice. It takes their advice into consideration. If you're more, I must admit there's something missing here, but I'm just going to try and read it out. It's very hard to read it out like this because there seems to be something missing. So it says, in the end, your heart knows best. You have lived your life and fully experienced it, making you the best person to decide what to do next. When it comes to life decisions which involve a lot of feeling and heart, like relationships, only you know what's in your heart. Trust that you have all the knowledge and experience you need to make the decision that's right for you. And now the reason number 2. Your intuition is encoded in your brain like a web of fact and feeling. That is why your intuition is so much more powerful than taking advice from someone else. Your intuition connects your body, mind, and spirit, and how those 3 elements have digested everything from your past. This web of fact and feeling makes you feel expansive, excited, and nervous about a new challenge if it's right. On the contrary, if you feel deflated, lethargic, and terrified if it's wrong. And reason 3 for trusting your gut, it is your intuition connects you with all the nerve cells in your body. The butterflies you feel in your tummy, sometimes referred to as a gut feeling, before an important decision, are a result of the feeling, the millions of nerve cells in there. The subconscious part of the brain sends signals to the nerves in the tummy to feel that way. What better way to make a decision than to listen to your full being and brackets, not only your mind, question mark. So Gregory, the author of this article, I must say, seems to encompass really well, the intuition, and you can say the different, parts that play in that, that are active in our decision making. The intellect also is there. So they didn't use that word intellect, but it's there. You can see that in part of decision making, and yet it's like all of that, you feel it in your stomach, in your gut. So it's like really incredible how this person has put into words, this experience of the gut feeling. So I'm just, I don't think you need to add anything, Greg, because you said it the way you explained it, and here this person has explained how they have experienced their gut feeling, which I feel is, it's in their own words, and it's like that's what they experienced. That's what they actually experienced. So yeah.
Well,
one thing. Go on, Gregory.
A very quick rejoinder.
Yes.
What one is referring here as intuition is what they themselves have referred to as something near to instinct. There has not been an acknowledgement of that which has risen above the earthly conception of space and time. That is the difference. For her, intuition has to be that which has been encoded in the physical body. That is not intuition. That is far from intuition. What is referred to here is that intuition is only a product that has arisen out of the wave of power of the spirit, not from the brain. Not. The origin is never from the brain, as she has, although when these strikes, they may look the same, but the sources are different. A very simple example. Here we have the COVID situation. The symptoms of the COVID are similar to the symptoms of the common cold, but their origins are different.
Yes.
Their origins are not the same. Therein lies the big difference. That which is of spirit is different, is of a different species, not even of the species of matter. Whereas her dissertation is directed, our discussion is directed to the bodily functionality, in which you have spontaneous reactions. She confuses real intuition from that which is not intuition.
Okay, I will. What I will say, because I have the article in front of me, so I'm going to say strictly. I will say that's not what she's saying. If I'm strict about it, I'll just read the line, which makes it clear. Your intuition connects your body, mind, and spirit, and how these three elements have digested everything from your past. This web of fact and feeling makes you feel expansive, excited, nervous about a new challenge, if it's right. On the contrary, if you feel deflated, lethargic, and terrified if it's wrong. So I would say I do believe she does know what is intuition. She's just sharing her experience of that intuition, which is including the physical, let's say, mind, and because she does mention body, mind, and spirit. It's connecting, the intuition is working through that. So I would say she does know what she's saying about intuition. It's just she's connecting the three of them together here in her experiencing. I would not say that because she's not aware of the source of the intuition, only that experience of it, she has it. So I can see your point on that, but I would say it's not that she's got something wrong in her. She's just coming from where she knows, that's what she knows, and not more. So I wouldn't call it incorrect. I would simply say that is the her experience. That's the best way I would put it. It's not actually wrong as far as I'm concerned. I would say simply that's what she knows, and that's what she senses. That's the level she can sense. So I would not call it. For me, there's no point where she's confusing her intuition with anything to do with instinct. There's no such mention of instinct or any point about instinct there. So just because Gregory, I've got the article in front of me, so I just want to clarify that. Okay, we've come to the end of the show. So I would like to read from the Grail message now, which is from the Grail message. It is called For Your Guidance. And so I will read that now. For your guidance. The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I am addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such, it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all the obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore, awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you're truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Abdushin. Dear listeners, I just read out the foreword from the Grail message, and if you are interested in knowing more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. Gregory, anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing everyone a beautiful week.
Thanks for that. And from me, listeners, we'll be back next week as usual, Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. with another topic. And hope you enjoyed the show tonight. I would say it was quite deep and varied. And yes, I wish you all the best. God bless. Take care, everybody. Have a great week. Good night.
You're listening to Bless. And this is George. Look saying keep it locked.